Okay, this has been something I've been sitting on since, since around 2007, I'd say. I don't really consider it anything terrifying by any traditional definition. At least I didn't. Looking back, there was kind of a lot to unpack. You know what? Maybe it's best if I took you back to then. Assuming you were an adult during that time period, 2007 to 2009, approximately, then you most likely didn't feel the full brunt of everything that occurred here in the United States. Housing market went under, portfolios burned up in a matter of months. The Great Recession, as it was called, only rivaled by its decade-long cousin just 80 years earlier, and it left the majority of us underwater. That includes, well, yours truly. If anything, what it did leave us with was a new understanding of just how fragile it can all turn. And so quickly, no less. Anyway, I'm not trying to make this political, or a sob story, for that matter. Thankfully, my job at the time didn't give me the boot. But in more ways than one, I found myself still strapped for cash, here and there. Additional jobs, even part-time, would shoo me away before even handing them a resume. Couldn't exactly say I blamed them, though. I'm sure everybody else had the same idea I had, perhaps in even more desperate situations. That pattern repeated. Work what hours I could, and then spend more time working to find additional income. In that search, however, I one day received a phone call from an unknown number. I'll spare you the details for the sake of brevity, pleasantries and all. His name, for the most part, isn't important. An old acquaintance, someone from high school who I haven't thought about, let alone reached out to, in over 15 years. The conversation went about how you'd expect, until he asked me two questions I was half expecting. So, how's this time been for you financially? And I actually wanted to ask, are you looking for new work at the moment? Now, I know what you might be thinking. Actually, I know exactly what you might be thinking. And in telling this story nearly 13 years later, it hasn't gotten any more difficult to spot something as obvious as a pyramid scheme. I braced myself for the worst, waiting to hear the shittiest Amway, World Financial Group, or mommy blog-esque pitch this month. I couldn't have prepared myself for what followed. I answered promptly, and he reciprocated with, "That's great. To be honest, it's kind of a weird one. Disney has this new company model that they're testing out and marketing to the public. I know animation and art isn't exactly your thing, but hey, it isn't insurance, right?" He let out a small chuckle. I hardly noticed in the seconds that I had to process it. Disney. Now, this was something that I've definitely never heard of before. Multi-level marketing usually took the form of something, well, intangible. Something that dangled in front of you, and really was meant for the dumbest of the dumb to believe. It was a numbers game. It has been, and mathematically it always will be. But this was new. And stumbling through my words, I attempted to catch up with him as he continually droned about the opportunity. Without thinking, I said yes. "Terrific! I'll text you the address. See you at 7. And with that, I went on my way. In case you were wondering, yes, I did see him at 7. This opportunity seemed too interesting to pass up. The initial meet and greet went about as smoothly as one would. Being surrounded by strangers at different levels of financial desperation never gets old in these types of things. And all at once, the representative clapped her hands and whistled, signaling that it was time to begin the conference. Standard fare. Once again, I'll skip the details. And besides, if you've sat through one of these things, you've sat through them all. Until, of course, they unearthed their product. And I gotta admit, I was surprised. Like I said, these MLMs feed and fester off of the intangibility of their products. Whether it be insurance, cell phone plans, or some kind of secret of life facade, it usually isn't something that you can hold in your hands. And if it is, it's typically either makeup or some shitty energy drink that even science hasn't a clue what it's comprised of. The team revealed a trove of toys, Disney figurines, about the size as the average Disney plush toy that you'd find in a store. Though, in passing them around the room, they felt different. Immediately, I could tell that this was not a fabric material, but rather an unfamiliar, jiggly substance, similar in composition to skin, but still a bit off. Voices now piped up, explaining that the material in question was actually medical-grade silicone, similar to what you'd find in, get ready for this, sex toys. A flurry of nervous laughter escaped our group, though one representative quickly and calmly reassured our assumptions. These toys were among Disney's stock that weren't deemed defective, unpopular, or otherwise unlikable by the general public, but rather experimental. Disney had decided that it would be mutually beneficial for both the consumer and shareholder to market these products outright, utilizing non-Disney employees to do so. It was touted as a phenomenal way to make extra cash, and allowed other perks in tandem, depending on how much we sold and/or recruited others. Classic model. A striking resemblance to another MLM was that some individuals sported different colored suits, much like WFG. I understood it here, though. The aesthetic was everything for them. Black suits, red suits, blue suits. I'm sure you get the idea. They look nice, too. A simple breakdown of the selling process indicated our goal to achieve XYZ amount. And, well, really, that was about it. Right away, we got our stock and went on our way. We didn't even have to pay for it. But I just wish someone would have warned me which way this would lead. I never considered myself a salesman. I still don't, if I'm being honest. But let me tell you, once I got the hang of these toys, and the soon realized overwhelming need for Disney in the average American household, they just kept selling. In a recession, no less. To think, this had to have been the time where people were financially at their lowest. And yet, I suppose the needs still had to be fulfilled. Whether it be for individuals, their kids, relatives, or whoever, people looked upon my inventory with awe. As stated previously, these were items that even the most dedicated Disney fans had never before seen. It was admittedly kind of sad just how easily people thought how rare or unique they were, when in actuality, all I'd have to do was return back to our monthly conferences to get more. On the off chance someone would inquire further about these toys, I do my best to tell them more. Probably more in depth than the average person pitching a pyramid scheme, sure, but, I wasn't about to sell them a dream outright. And on the off chance someone expressed even more interest, I would recruit them, This repeated for about 4 months. Each time garnering a fair amount of praise from both my colleagues and my uplink, the previous guy who recruited me, alike. Things were going well. Really well, actually. It was the first time in my life in a long time where I could safely say that I had a fair amount of disposable income. And despite recruits being interested, even some to the point of joining, I made the majority of my percentages through my actual sales. Kind of uncommon, I'm aware. Pyramid schemes and MLMs are typically a cash grab for strictly recruiting others. If you didn't know, the reason why MLMs seemingly have to have a product is because, federally, as a business, they have to showcase that there is something tangibly transactional alongside recruiting people. That, and the millions of dollars in corporate payouts and lawsuits, but, I suppose that's neither here nor there. It seemed to fit Disney's underlying model anyway. The individuals who I recruited quickly began showing up to be a part of the team. Conferences were held, the room generally fluctuated from time to time from people who either found success in it, or who decided quickly that it wasn't for them. Both my upline and I kept in constant contact from then on, even going out on occasion. Who would have thought, right? We'd discuss business, be on our way, and then continue on doing our selling. I rode the fairly limited social media / early internet wave in assisting with my sales. Until pretty soon, the next conference announced my name among those receiving special recognition. And I couldn't believe it. I felt tears began to flow, though quickly suppressed them in meeting the representatives on stage. Still, I'm not too sure if they wanted me to give a few words of encouragement back down the ladder to those once in my shoes, but I didn't exactly have a lot of time to process it either, for 2 more representatives came out from behind the stage curtain, black-suited, and carrying a coat hanger bag. Inside, a sparkling sapphire blue suit. The front name, a golden ticket, sat adorned with my name on it. Michael, for all of your dedicated work that you have since placed within the Disney Corporation, it would be our honor to present you with your first chairman position. Congratulations, and welcome aboard. A rush of applause. A flustered face, my upline from the sidelines smiled and applauded right with them. Those same confident rows of teeth beaming directly at me, now with an audience to match. I noticed a couple of my downlines, who I had actually managed to establish real connections with, sat and stared, both parts proud and envious. The crowd looked smaller, though only slightly. It was just enough for me to notice. Though, with that, the conference came to a close. With my new suit in hand, I made my way to the parking lot. A couple of my downlines followed to me personally, congratulating me on a job well done. Friendly poking and prodding me for my tips and tricks, though I really couldn't think of much to say. It all came so naturally that it was difficult to formulate it in a way for others to digest, and luckily I didn't have to. My upline came up from behind them through the crowd, shaking everyone's hands, leaving me for last. You son of a bitch. Next thing you know, you're gonna be up there giving the conference, huh? Yeah, I suppose so, man. I can't believe it. Really. Nonsense, man. Look at you. A natural. In his element. Making more money than you ever thought would be possible. That's what I'm talking about. My downlines laughed, though he quickly spoke again, cutting them off. I'm actually glad I caught you before you left, though. There was something that I wanted to speak with you about. He turned to everyone else. Sorry, everyone. Mind if we speak in private? Don't worry, I'm sure he'll have some great insight for you guys next month. Alright? They all spoke simultaneously, humorously leaving reluctantly. We both waved goodbye to them as they got in their individual cars and left. The 2 of us stood alone in the parking lot. Walk with me, would you? Oh, and bring your suit. Without question, I did. We both made our way to his car, located just a few spots over from mine. A quick push of a button from his pocket unlocked it, and he retrieved a dry cleaning bag from his trunk. In it contained a fabric of shiny red. There really aren't any bathrooms nearby, but go ahead and change, man. I've got something to show you. Don't worry, I won't look. Matter of fact, I'll go over on the other side and change too. Change? I thought. But without another word, he made his way adjacent to me, plastic and clothes strewing over the head of the car, obstructed from my field of view. Tearing open my own bag, my hands ran along the fabric. a soft yet firm material in a radiant color that I wouldn't have dared worn anywhere else. A pair of dress pants, tie, and pocket square matched. Luckily for me, my dress shoes I came in sufficed. How's it fit, man? Pretty well, actually. How'd they manage to get my size to the T? A short chuckle came from him as he finished zipping up his pants. I actually wondered the same thing, but I just kind of went with it, you know? He emerged, sporting a dazzling ruby red suit, similar in appearance to my own, indicating my suspicion that, just like me, he served as a chairman. The second chairman, to be specific. Being a greenhorn meant, ironically, wearing blue, in my case. Red followed suit, and then black. I know, probably not what you were expecting, right? I figured I'd tell you on some off chance we went out for drinks, but I wanted to wait until today to let you in on the surprise. So, welcome to the big leagues. Excuse me. Alright, well, you got everything? Blue looks great on you, by the way. You won't be able to get in where we're going without some color on you. A quick cough escaped him, and that was followed by me asking, well, where are we going? Exactly. I looked at my watch. Oh, just back inside. It'll be quick, I promise. I just need to show you something now that the ceremony's over. We walked and talked. Well, wouldn't I be doing the same job I'm doing now? Selling toys? He chuckled once more. That's a part of it, of course, as well as recruiting new people. That'll always be a goal here. But now that you're a chairman, you'll actually be getting a third leg of responsibility. Great, I began thinking to myself, rolling my eyes. And he must have been able to tell how apprehensively I was taking this news, because he quickly reassured me. Don't worry, it's literally nothing you haven't done before. Matter of fact, it's more in touch with what you do for work. A quick question, you still work in IT, right? I nodded. Great! This'll be a great fit for you, then. Hell, you may even find yourself quitting your other position. Let's just see how it goes first, I stated, as we both made our way into the building's elevator. He took out a key with the familiar mouse shape and slid it into a slot. A button shot out from the seemingly solid stainless steel, prompting him to press it. Down we rode, floor after floor of much of the same. A quaint jingle rang throughout the box. A majority of our time was spent staring off into opposite directions, the occasional cough escaping either one of us. This place far down? We should be nearly there. This elevator usually takes a bit. Another round of silence. I piped up another question. So, IT. What is it they need me to do again? He stood in silence, still motionless. I thought he couldn't hear me, so I asked again. Huh? Oh, sorry, what was that? A flustered look could be seen visible across his face. I asked him what was wrong, and after several seconds, he finally asked. Michael, how many downlines did you end up having? Confused, I answered him. In total, I had managed to recruit a good 11 people outside of directly selling. He nodded. And how many of those individuals did you see today at both the ceremony and when they greeted you outside at your car? I struggled with an answer. It's not like I was actively keeping track of them both being grown adults, as well as not being prepared for this type of question entirely. Mustering up a response, I estimated that there were about 5 of my downlines sitting in the audience, as I was awarded, and about 3 that came out to my car to see me off. He nodded again, though a rationalization was simple on my end. I mean, they probably just went home, or maybe this wasn't for them anymore. What are you getting at? He paused for another second. The elevator dinged, signaling our stop, and both doors opened to a long hallway, situating 2 revolving doors at the end. I understand why you may think that, Michael. MLMs aren't for everyone. They aren't even for the majority of people thinking that getting rich fast and easy is a possibility. No, they're for people like you and me, with sticks up our asses and with a passion to sell and recruit. Natural-born salespeople. But, well, you're right. Some people aren't cut out for this kind of work. But sometimes, people also think that they can have their cake and eat it too. We began walking. You see, Michael, as your upline, it's my job to keep tabs on those who are below me, and consequently, the people that are below you. Yes, as you probably already guessed, this follows the standard pyramid model. No doubt about it. But these other pyramid models, why do you suppose they fail? Well, they're designed to, I answered. Somewhat, yes, but I'm mainly referring to the products that they tout, if any. They're garbage, aren't they? Overpriced, overvalued garbage. No sane human being would buy anything out of a Mary Kay catalog, or put themselves on such a back-ass insurance plan in the likes of ACN or WFG. Correct? I nodded hesitantly. But with Disney? Disney ropes people in. It has this magnetic effect on anyone's wallet, and for what? The same overpriced, overvalued garbage. The only difference is that we have a theme park to boot, and this sense of magic. I mean, spoiler, but it's the money that fuels it all. And to all the people at the very bottom wanting a piece of that same exact pie, they're no exception. They think they can make it big in this business, but then they quickly realize that they have 0 sales experience, let alone communication skills. They're doomed to fail. They're out of money as is, and in a time like this? How coincidental. So what do you think these individuals do when they're handed a ticket to an opportunity they know is out of their leagues? I didn't answer. It's simple. They take shortcuts, Michael. They sneak through the cracks in cyberspace, thinking that we'd be none the wiser. They take our products, our inventory, and sell them there. On eBay, Amazon, Gumtree, Craigslist, anywhere you could think of that takes the entire thrill, risk, and process out of the equation of selling entirely. These people, they're not salespeople. They're nothing. And yes, granted, you used a fair amount of social media to advertise, we know, but that's different. You're different. You thought outside the box, and thus, look where you are now. The hallway seemed to grow larger. The door didn't feel any closer. I need you to understand that just beyond this door is something that you can never come back from. A job that will require you to weed out those who can't hack it in this business. Something that you'll be rewarded handsomely with, of course. But something that will require you to have an open mind to accept. We stopped in front of the door. I caught a glimpse of a putrid smell, only for a faint moment. So, do you accept? At this point, I could feel a puddle of sweat seeping down my back, but I knew that I had come too far to not discover what this was all alluding to. I nodded, and he opened the door gently. And inside, I knew the truth. Inside, I realized that Disney was indeed different than any other MLM I had seen thus far, let alone any that I've seen throughout the entirety of my life. Inside, I was fully aware that people who decided that they simply weren't interested or decided that it wasn't for them didn't leave to go home at the end of the day. No, they ended up here, in piles, lining the walls, operating tables, and in vats of an unknown corrosive liquid. They ended up separate from their own skin, drugged, killed, and stretched. Stretched over what appeared to be a childlike shape, adorned with eyes, nose, a mouth, the works. The material was a jiggly substance. It reminded me of medical-grade silicone.